Hi, my name is Bill Wells. I'm the mayor of the city of El Cajon, and I'm here today because I'm talking about a concert that we're doing. I'm also a musician, and every once in a while I'll do benefit concerts. And this time I'm doing a benefit concert for the Home of Guiding Hands. It's going to be on Saturday, January 14th at 5 o'clock p.m. at the Magnolia Theater in downtown El Cajon. And if you're interested in this, you want to learn more, take a listen. I guess my earliest memories of being involved in music or interested in music was with my dad, who back in the 60s was a frustrated musician, always wanted to be a musician, but never was. But he had a huge record collection and he had really eclectic tastes. And so he would sit with me and play music for me, everything from jazz and bossa nova to Harry Nilsson, and a lot of really good stuff. And he died when I was fairly young, and I didn't really think about getting involved in music again until about eighth grade. We moved to a new school, and I ran into a friend on the bus who said, "Oh, you should join the band." And I said, "Well, I don't play any instruments." He said, "No, it's okay. Don't worry about it." So he took me and introduced me to the band director. And the band director said, "What do you play?" And I said, "Saxophone." And he said, "Okay." And he gave me a saxophone. He sat me in the band, and I sat there for about 3 months. Didn't have any idea what I was doing. And he eventually pulled me aside and said, "Look, I don't mind you being in the band, but you're going to have to learn how to play." So he gave me a fingering chart and told me not to come back unless I learned how to play. So I went home and taught myself how to play saxophone. And then by the time I got in high school, I was decent, and I went to a school that had a really great music program. So I played sax all through school, and then eventually that led to me playing piano and guitar. Well, I play saxophone, piano, and guitar. Piano is my main instrument. I'm okay on guitar. There's so many great guitar players, though. You know, it's nobody needs another guitar player. So I end up playing more sax or piano than anything. And I played sax in high school, like I had mentioned, but I didn't have one. After I got out of high school, I couldn't afford one. I had to give the school's instrument back. They're expensive. They're about $3,000 or $4,000. And for years, I didn't have one until about 3 years ago. My wife bought me one because she was so tired of me not playing. And so then after she spent all that money, I figured, I better get back into it. So I got heavily back into it, and I'm doing a lot more saxophone these days. So the question is really, why is music good for your soul? And, that's kind of a philosophical question that I think it's hard to answer. I mean, part of it's really intangible, right? I mean, why is beauty important? Why is it important to see sunsets, and why is it important to see snow-capped mountains and beautiful art and beautiful people? And, it's really hard to say that. I think it gives the soul a warmth and pleasure in ways that other things can't. As a psychologist, I can tell you that learning how to play an instrument is really good for your brain. It opens up new neural pathways. And I think it really helps you in just about every aspect of life. That's why I think it's really important for kids to learn how to play music. And I wish that we hadn't kind of gotten away from that in school, because when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, music education was pretty important still. And so most of the schools offered a pretty extensive music education. And if you go to any hospital, I spent a lot of my time working in hospitals, you'd be surprised at how many of the doctors and nurses played instruments. It's a huge amount of people. And I think it's because the kind of brain activity that it takes to play an instrument is very similar to the kind of brain activity it takes to get involved in the hard sciences. And so places like DuPont, every Friday they'll have a big concert, because there's so many people in their organization that are outstanding musicians. And so I just think music's important overall. But for me, I wasn't particularly great at sports, and it gave me something to be really good at. And I think that was important for my development as a person. Our current band is kind of a hodgepodge of people that I played with over the years. And it was really put together for a benefit concert that I did for the East County Transitional Living Center about 2-3 years ago. Live Nation, who runs the theater in El Cajon, the theater that the city of El Cajon is connected with, they asked me to play some music at the opening of the new theater. We hired Live Nation to run our theater, and part of the deal was that we would upgrade it. So we spent about $10 million getting all new air conditioning, new digital lighting, digital sound, upgrading the seats and the carpets, and made it all really nice. And so we had a big grand opening, and they had heard that I played music, so they asked if I would play for the grand opening. And I did. I played just one song for the grand opening, and then their music director liked what he heard and called me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a benefit concert?" I said, "Oh my gosh, do a concert in a big 1,200 seat theater with all that great equipment and a professional sound crew? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. That's a dream come true." And so we put together a band to do a concert for the East County Transitional Living Center, which is a homeless shelter in El Cajon. And I called upon some friends. There's a guy named Johnny Glaser, who is a Grammy winner, just a monster piano player, just so much better than me. It's scary. And he plays keyboards with me. My friend Kevin Green, that I toured with when I was a kid, he came down and did a couple of shows. Unfortunately, he's not going to be in this show because he's working on an album right now, so he can't do it. There's a guy named Mike Wiley who plays bass. He plays all around town. He's kind of a San Diego staple. Same with Scott Coyle, who's a guitar player. He's been real involved in the Christian music scene, and he's played just about everywhere with everyone and almost every Christian music recording project that's been for the last 30, 40 years. Who else we got going? Bob Sale is our drummer. He played on That Thing You Do soundtrack, and he does a bunch of recording sessions these days. He doesn't do a lot of live playing anymore. He mostly just does recording. He's a session player. He's just like unbelievable. They call him the human metronome because he knows exactly the beat for everything he has to play, and he never wavers from it. So he's a fantastic drummer. A buddy of mine from high school named Andy Jeddick, who's a computer software guy, and he plays bongos or the congas and harmonica. It's funny, he plays harmonica because we had to do a harmonica song, and my harmonica player had to cancel on me at the last minute. So I called up Andy. I said, "Hey, you want a challenge? Can you learn to play harmonica in about 2 weeks?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And so he bought a harmonica and figured out how to play the solo in about 2 weeks and did a great job. Now he's a harmonica player. So it's funny how that works out. And Andy's an interesting guy. He's 6'10" and played professional basketball for a long time. So he's my good buddy from high school. And then our background singers, Sergio Noriega and Stephanie Noriega, they both sang at my church, Skyline Church. Excellent singers. Grace Giordano is our youngest member of the group. She's our third background singer, and she's got a beautiful voice. We've got 3 horns that we brought into the group about 1.5 years ago. Greg Hassan plays trombone. Rachel Allen is a trumpet player, and Tim Gamel is another sax player. He plays alto. I play tenor, and these guys are just monsters. They're fantastic. They play in all the big horn bands around town. If you've gone to any kind of corporate events where they have horn players, chances are you've heard them play already. And if I see if I'm leaving anybody, we got a new guy. Leonard Patton. He's a staple in San Diego music. He owns a jazz club. He also sings with the Lambs Player Theater. He's just an amazing, awesome vocalist, and so he's starting with us for the first time this year. So I think that's the whole group. So when did I first hear about the Home of Guiding Hands? Being the mayor is a part-time job. and all of us who are mayors of the cities have another career. At least let's hope so. Or otherwise, you couldn't pay your bills because being mayor doesn't pay enough to. I joke that it's about enough to make my car payment, but that's okay. It's not about money. But I got to make money like everybody else. So I'm an RN and a psychologist. And so I've worked in mental health since 1988 and worked at most of the different hospitals around town doing psychiatric evaluations, mostly in the emergency room setting. My wife's also a psychologist, by the way. And as a result of doing psychiatric evaluations in the ER, I had a lot of patients come through that were part of the Home of Guiding Hands network. The Home of Guiding Hands worked with special needs folks, what we used to call mental retardation, what we call now called developmental disability. And so a lot of their patients will come through the hospital. So I got to know that organization through a clinical way. And then later when I became mayor, it was clear to me that the Home of Guiding Hands, which is the largest provider of DD services in San Diego, they've got 4,000 clients. They're located in El Cajon with their corporate headquarters. And so I got to know them pretty well at that level. And so I had invited them all to come to some of my other concerts, and they came and they enjoyed it. And then they approached me about 6 months ago and asked if I would do this concert for them. This fundraiser is maybe a little bit different than some of the other fundraisers that I've done in that we're not really selling tickets this time. I think they've set aside a few tickets to sell some of the VIPs to raise a little bit of money. But for the most part, there was an organization that came and a benefactor that wanted to give a present to the people that were in the program, their family and their caregivers, a chance for them to get out and have a concert just for them so they could have a good time. So he paid for the entire thing, bought all the tickets. And so that's really, really, really a neat thing. And so that's why that's how that's working this year. I think they will raise some money. That they have some auction items, specifically a couple of Taylor guitars, one signed by Jason Mraz, because Jason Mraz is really involved with the Home of Guiding Hands as well. It's been an important charity for him. So he went ahead and signed one of the guitars. So they're going to auction that off. I think that will probably go for a fair amount of money. As far as the concert itself, you're going to hear some really top-notch musicians, some of the best in San Diego County. In fact, I got a couple of people coming from outside of San Diego flying in from the East Coast to be part of this. But I think the thing that people like the most is that I'm really careful about the music that I choose. You know, one of the things I really hate is going to a concert of somebody that you loved when you were a kid, and you go and hear their concert and they say, well, we're not going to play any of the hits. We're just going to play stuff off the new album. And everybody goes, oh gosh, I don't want to hear things I don't know. I want to hear songs I know. And so I'm really careful about that. And I've been real careful about choosing the songs that everybody likes. I spent a lot of time thinking about it in my own mind, listening to it in the car, talking to friends of mine, talking to family. My wife's my biggest confidant, and she's pretty good at choosing too. And we choose songs that everybody knows and everybody really likes. My goal is that at each new song you say, oh, I love this song. And you know all the words and you sing along and you dance with it and you say, and that's kind of the feedback that we've gotten over the last 3 shows, is that people just had a great time because every song was good. And I think that's really more important than trying to show off your own talent. I think musicians sometimes are very easily led down the path of trying to pick songs that maybe nobody knows, but really shows how great they are. And because a lot of times the really popular songs are simple and they don't really show off, but I don't care. I think you choose the songs people like. So that's what they're going to see. Now, aside from that, aside from the band, the Home of Guiding Hands has a music therapy program called Banding Together, where the clients have formed their own band and they've been working on songs for quite a while. And they're going to come up at the intermission and they're going to do a couple of songs. And that should be fun too. And then at the end, I think we're going to bring a lot of the clients up to sing the last song with us. It's all about just having a great time and letting loose and having fun. I mean, the larger message is that Home of Guiding Hands is a worthwhile organization. It's worth your time and your talent and your treasure. And if you want to, if you feel touched by what you see there and kind of what we're doing there, I think there's certainly room for people to volunteer their time or to donate money to the program, because they, like any other mental health program, they're on a shoestring budget and they're just trying to get by. What I'm looking forward to most is getting through it without any major disasters. Every live show has something that goes wrong. There's the amp stops working, the guitar breaks strings, you forget the lyrics. Sometimes a song inside out, backwards, and you get up there and all of a sudden, for some reason that nobody can explain, you forget how to play it. And those are things that you always worry about. But the truth is, I've been doing this so long that I realize nobody even notices when those things happen. You just plow through it, and then you say to people afterwards, say, "Oh my gosh, that was a disaster." They say, "What are you talking about? I didn't hear anything." You're like, "Okay." So, but that's my major goal, is to get through it without any major problems, and hopefully everybody has a good time. You must go because really you're not going to hear a concert like this very often. If you go to an Eagles concert, you're going to hear 15, 20 great Eagles songs. And if you go to a lot of concerts, you're going to hear a couple of great songs and a bunch of stuff that you don't know, and you have to kind of get through it. This, you're going to hear songs from, we mentioned the Eagles. We'll do an Eagles song, but we're also going to do Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago, and Ray Charles, and the B-52s, and oh gosh, I can't even think. Just an eclectic bunch of music that most people will really like. I mean, granted, I'm an older guy, so I'm attracted to music from the 70s and the 80s, but and so it kind of reflects that. But there's some newer stuff too. I mean, the reason that people should donate to nonprofits is that the truth is that most of the organizations that do the best work in our society are organizations that have very little funding. We all intuitively know that taking care of people with special needs, people with mental retardation, it's super important, especially in this respect. They take care of a lot of people that people don't think about. When you think about kids with Down syndrome or things like that, you usually think of kids. But these kids who a couple generations ago used to die very young now live full lives. And that means at some point their parents can't take care of them anymore. So they need to move out of the home setting and into a setting where they're being cared for by professional caregivers, which is extremely expensive. But they're not able to really live on their own. And so we've got to do that. The state is not really set up to fund that, at least not in a very nice way. So if these people are going to have a nice quality of life and live in a clean, safe place, the people in the community have to get together and put a little bit of money into it. And I think it's completely our responsibility to try to take care of people that can't take care of themselves. That I think that at some level that's for the homeless, but it's kind of a different story because they have some capacity to get themselves out of their own problem. But when you're talking about people with developmental disabilities, this is completely out of their own ability to pull themselves out of this. This is a state that they're going to be living in for the rest of their lives. So we really need to take care of these folks. Well, the reason I think it's important to give in general, because I think that's part of being a full human being. Life is more than just taking care of yourself. And believe me, I get it. I grew up very poor. I know how hard it is to try to take care of yourself sometimes. And then you get older and you get kids, and then you're just trying to get by. But I think learning to give, even if it's a small amount, it really rounds you out as a human being, and it gives you purpose. And I think it connects you with the entire community. People that give to these organizations don't just give and walk away. They then become connected to this organization. They start to care about what happens to this organization. And so whatever tugs at your heart, whether it be the Home of Guiding Hands or the East County Transitional Living Center or your church or whatever you connect with, I think that when you give of your resources to that, it not only helps that organization, but it helps you. It helps you to live a more meaningful life. Yeah, as far as a call to action goes, I just want people to come and have a good time, support the clients, and just kind of get a chance to see a different side of life and meet some new people and have a good time and hopefully sing songs that you enjoy and dance a little bit and just have fun.